This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, a Halifax judge rules Nova Scotia Health unfairly denied 2 women out-of-province care. A family's plea. A daughter urges the RCMP to acknowledge her mother's death as intimate partner violence. And day 6 on the campaign trail. Both the NDP and Liberals vow to proclaim the Coastal Protection Act into law.
A cold front moving through tonight will bring us back to reality, feeling a lot like early November as we turn the page into the first weekend of November. All the details are coming up.
Good evening. 2 Nova Scotia women whose out-of-province health care cost them tens of thousands of dollars have won a major victory in court. A Halifax judge has ruled that Jennifer Brady and Crystal Ellingson were discriminated against by the Department of Health. Now the Premier is apologizing. But a quick warning, there are some references to thoughts of suicide in this story that some viewers may find upsetting. Angela McIver has our top story tonight.
You keep talking about speaking to Nova Scotians. I have emailed you, I have mailed you. My case is in a judicial review right now, and you have ignored it every single time.
After Jennifer Brady boldly demanded Tim Houston's attention at his election kickoff rally earlier this week, a court decision has now completely changed his tone.
On behalf of the province, I want to apologize to them. No Nova Scotian should have to go through what they went through, so we're really sorry on behalf of all Nova Scotians that this happened to them. We take the decision very seriously.
Brady has lymphedema, a chronic condition that causes pain and swelling in her legs. Crystal Ellingson has a similar condition called lipedema. Both were denied out-of-province care by Nova Scotia's health insurer, MSI, and the Department of Health. In 2022, they filed a judicial review. In his decision, Justice Timothy Gabriel strongly sides with the 2 women, writing, "I have found that the applicants have been treated in a procedurally unfair manner, and that in any event, the decision rendered by the department with respect to each of their individual cases was unreasonable."
How do you celebrate a win when the battle has cost so much? So I don't know how to celebrate that.
After fighting with the province for years this past spring, Brady applied to end her life through medically assisted dying. The program's clinical lead said then she met all of the criteria, except the fact her condition is treatable. Care options are available, just not in Nova Scotia. He urged the health department to take another look.
Before I applied for MAID, I almost killed myself. So I'm not really sure how to go forward yet. I think I'm still processing that the battle's over.
Houston admits it never should have come to this.
Obviously, the department got it wrong, and we'll respect the decision and work with people to make sure we get it right going forward.
Houston has not only ordered the Department of Health to pay all expenses the women have already shelled out for treatment and travel, but legal fees and interest too. He has also asked the Auditor General to do a thorough review of the women's cases and the entire process for out-of-province care. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
The Nova Scotia RCMP is facing criticism over a recent homicide. Not for the investigation, but for the details it chose not to reveal. Details that might have helped inform the wider question of domestic violence committed by law enforcement officers. Kayla Hounsell reports.
This is Brenda Tatlock Burke. Her daughter says she was killed by her husband, Mike Burke, a retired RCMP officer who then killed himself.
He was very controlling.
Tatlock Burke had been visiting her daughters in Alberta. They took her to the airport to return to Nova Scotia on October 16th. She was planning to leave her husband.
I asked her multiple times before she left, "Are you safe? Are you going to be okay when you leave?"
2 days later, she was dead. The RCMP say they were called to Enfield, Nova Scotia for a well-being check. Inside this house, they say they found a woman who had died by homicide and a man by self-inflicted injuries. They say they won't release any further information due to the Privacy Act and out of respect for the family.
Nobody's ever asked us what we wanted to keep private.
The RCMP has now confirmed this is a case of intimate partner violence, but only after CBC News conveyed the family's frustrations. They didn't originally label it as such. The force declined an interview and still won't confirm the case involves a former Mountie, saying it can't disclose anyone's past employment unless it's to advance an investigation.
When you're protecting people who have that kind of authority or stature in society, you're making it really hard for people that are in that position to leave because they think that it's only happening to them.
They're that much more vulnerable in terms of their own safety, their partner's access to weapons.
This advocate says there's not a lot of research in Canada around the prevalence of police-perpetrated intimate partner violence.
There is some research, however, coming out of the States that indicates that intimate partners of law enforcement experience domestic violence at significantly higher rates than the general population.
I just hope it helps even just one person.
Tatlockberg's daughter says she wants her to be remembered not just for the terrible way she died, but as an outgoing person who loved to sing. An entertainer who loved to make people laugh. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Halifax RCMP is warning people to check their Halloween candy after cannabis and a razor blade were found in treat bags given out last night. Police were initially called to a home in Lake Echo where 2 youth found a dozen pre-rolled joints among their Halloween treats. RCMP believe the cannabis came from a residence on Ponderosa Road or Blue Rock Road. Then officers received another call after a trick-or-treater found a razor blade in their Halloween bag. RCMP believe it came from a home on Taranaki Drive in Westfall. Police are asking families to check their treats and report any incidents. All right, Ryan, I know the calendar says November 1st, but boy, it didn't feel like it today.
Another warm one. No records broken today officially, but it was definitely a very notably warm day for November the 1st. 19 in Shelburne and Western Head, and Keji at 19, and you can see 20 at Ingonish Beach. Temperatures into the mid to high teens across the board today. Just an absolutely lovely day. And a far cry from where we'll be tomorrow. Back to reality. Northerly winds kicking in tonight with this front that's bringing some showers. And tomorrow that north to northwest flow feeling much cooler. Mid to high single digits on Saturday with a chance for some isolated showers. Sunday, a brighter day, especially for the west. We'll see those isolated shower chances lingering for the east, the Northumberland shore and into the Cape Breton region. No temperatures still in the 5, 6, 7 degree range. It's all thanks to this front which rolls through and that northerly flow which will be ushering in that cooler air mass. And again, keeping an eye on those flurry chances for Cape Breton and the North Shore on Sunday, Amy. But temperatures on the rise into the 7-day forecast, and we'll talk all about that with your full details coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, lots on the go. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, there were some tense moments in North End Halifax today as fire crews responded to a gas leak. A construction crew that's been working on Almond Street cut into a gas line. Firefighters were on the scene just before 1 o'clock and started moving people out of surrounding buildings.
We got around 12:58. We got a report that a construction crew had hit a gas line. Crews responded. We isolated, evacuated the area, contacted the gas company, shut down the power, and made the area safe till the gas got turned off.
Things started returning to normal by mid-afternoon. Well, it's day 6 of the election campaign in Nova Scotia. Today, NDP leader Claudia Chender promised that if elected, her government would proclaim the Coastal Protection Act into law. The act outlines how and where people can build near the province's coastlines. It's meant to protect people and property from rising sea levels and the effects of climate change. The Coastal Protection Act passed with all-party support in 2019 when the Liberals were in government, but it was never brought into effect. The PC government said earlier this year that it was abandoning the act.
Nova Scotians are rightfully angry that the Houston government and the Liberals before them have failed to protect our beautiful and important coastlines.
Shortly after Chender made her announcement, the Liberals said they would also proclaim the act immediately if elected. Liberal leader Zach Churchill was in Yarmouth today announcing measures to tamp down on illegal lobster fishing. PC leader Tim Houston, meanwhile, is campaigning in Cape Breton. Elections Nova Scotia is warning the public about an email scam targeting people's personal information. The email is intended to look like it came from the organization and is about online voting. A spokesperson for Elections Nova Scotia says there is no internet voting in this provincial election. Elections Nova Scotia also does not send out mass emails to voters. The organization has referred the matter to the RCMP. Well, as more campaign announcements are made, the biggest issues of this election are taking shape. The CBC's Jean Laroche and Michael Gorman took some time earlier today to talk about what they're seeing and hearing.
Well, we're almost through the first week of the campaign, and we are in a position to start to look at where the parties differ on certain issues, not in depth, but we're starting to get there.
Right. One of them is when it comes to tax relief. Both the Liberals and the PCs are proposing to reduce the HST, the Liberals by 2 percentage points and the Tories by 1. They're also both proposing to increase the basic personal exemption. That's how much money you get to keep before provincial income tax kicks in. In both cases, the Liberals are pledging to do more. The Tories say we can't afford to go as far as they want to. The Liberals say if you just stuck to your budget and didn't spend $1 billion outside of it each year, there's money for it.
And on the environmental front, we see both the Liberals and then the NDP saying that they would enact the Coastal Protection Act. Not a surprise, since we've heard that before, but it's in stark contrast to what the Progressive Conservatives are doing, which is they voted for it when they were in opposition, supported it, and when they came into government, decided to go down a different path, which doesn't include turning the Coastal Protection Act into law.
And so it's going to become easier and easier to find more distinctions in the coming weeks as the parties start rolling out their platforms. Some of them could be putting out their entire platforms as early as next week.
And a friendly reminder for those who are just kind of getting engaged in this campaign, normally you would get a voter information card which tells you where to vote, when to vote. Well, you won't be getting that this time. Elections Nova Scotia, because of a threat of a postal strike, has decided, okay, we're not going to do that, but you can still find out where and when if you go to their website.
Thanks, guys. Well, Africville family reunion organizers are considering a series of security measures for future events after receiving the results of a safety review of the park from Halifax police. They asked for one to be done after 5 people were injured in a shooting this summer. Gareth Hampshire has that story.
Police carried out a safety evaluation in Africville following a shooting at the annual family reunion in the historic black community this summer. The first time there has ever been violence at the event in its 41 years.
Our reunion is open to everybody, and we also take very seriously our responsibility to ensure the safety.
Officers visited the site to look at what could be done to make it safer, and they produced a report with a number of recommendations. Those focus on better lighting in the park. CCTV's another suggestion, and there are a number of park upgrades being recommended, including trimming overgrown trees and shrubs currently blocking sight lines. Another recommendation suggests repairing holes in the fence along the shore here. There are several gaps that lead to paths on the other side where people cannot be seen.
People have been coming in and out through that fencing. That needs to be repaired and cleaned up, and possibly even made a little higher than what it currently is so that people can't climb over it.
The audit's findings were shared at a community meeting with those who camped there for the annual gathering. People who were there when the shooting happened had similar suggestions to police.
It's a lot of people that come there. There should be some consideration to the security. It's very dark at night. People are sleeping over.
The idea of security patrols is also suggested, but on an as-needed basis.
Even some minor measures, it'll discourage the gunmen from coming back.
Police say safety plans might not prevent crime, but can help deter it. Now the Genealogy Society is looking to the city and the province to help pay for some of the upgrades.
Ensuring that these recommendations are met is critical to the success of our reunion.
One thing's for sure, he says, the reunion will happen again next year, and he's expecting a big turnout as people show the spirit of Africville. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
And we have a quick update now to a story we told you about previously. An Indigenous woman in Antigonish has been fearing she would lose custody of her children because Ottawa was cutting off her essential funding. Mary Isaac was approved for 24-hour home assistance after an accident a few years ago. But late yesterday evening, the family learned that Indigenous Services Canada is going to provide 3 more weeks of support for Isaac and her children, pending an appeal decision on November 21st. It's been more than a week since people started moving into Cape Breton's new pallet shelter village. And 2 best friends are already seeing positive changes from having a place to call their own. Erin Potty has that story.
At Sydney's Pine Tree Park Pallet Village, people are making these tiny shelters their new homes. Annie Herney says having this space is a huge relief after years of having nowhere to go.
It's a place to call home again. And it's like you're comfortable. Your own space, your personal space. Besides what the world's going on out there, you don't care. You just go to bed.
Herney says while living on the streets, she was badly beaten and nearly died.
It's been tough for me, really tough, because of the bullying and the assaults I had to go through, whatnot, as a woman, but I'm here today. I'm still grateful. I'm still happy.
She's one of 35 people who has moved into the new shelters, along with her friend Renelda Denny. The pair have couch surfed and slept outside in frigid temperatures. They would sometimes drink alcohol to stay warm and drive away hunger. Now they say they're consuming less. The shelters even protect their belongings and offer them something they're not used to having.
Privacy. Yeah. You get to shut your door, you don't have to listen to the negativity and the people that, you don't have to feel like you're not welcome in people's homes.
Pine Tree Park Village is made up of 1-room units. There are also daily meals, along with washrooms and showers, and healthcare and counseling services. All of this is helping them get their lives back.
I'm just me, just being me again. Because over the years, I couldn't 2-3 years on the road. It's delightful just to wake up every morning and see the sun.
Both women are hoping to move into more permanent housing so they can continue to work on improving their lives. Erin Potty, CBC News, Sydney.
A lovely day for a stroll through the Halifax Public Gardens. Ryan is up next with his full weather forecast. We'll see you in just a bit. Yep, went out today without a jacket, which was nice. Not so tomorrow, maybe?
Not so tomorrow. You can go out without a jacket.
I'll just be very cold.
Yeah, it's a huge change coming, and back to reality, as I've been saying. I know using the same phrase, but really it is going to feel very, very early, actually kind of late November, like in terms of temperatures.
More than brisk.
More than brisk. We should be around 9-10 degrees this time of year, and we'll struggle to get there even in the South Shore. Away from the onshore flow. Let's first start with this. Yes, we're here. Sunday.
Oh yeah, that too, right?
The clocks fall back, so we gain an hour, but on Sunday, the sunset time in Halifax will be 4:59 p.m.
Yikes.
4 p.m. sunset hours, never easy to handle. And of course, our daylight continues to head in the wrong direction. You can see by the time we get to December 21st, 4:36 will be our sunset. And yeah, of course, then we're rebounding, thankfully. Beyond that, in terms of those daytime lengths, you can see down to 10 hours currently, and then down to less than 9 hours. But then on the rebound, and of course the sun angle, that huge thing as well. The sun is just 30% above the horizon, 30-degree angle above the horizon right now. Far cry from near 70 degrees above the horizon once we get to the summer. Okay, well, if you're heading out in the next little bit, be mindful that, the cold front is coming, and you can see live look here in downtown Halifax right now on Argyle, looking not too bad. Temperatures around 15 degrees. Not so bad. It's actually a fairly decent evening, although we do have some showers rolling through. Most of them today have been along this frontal boundary over northern Nova Scotia and into Cape Breton, and then backing out into, New Brunswick, where we've had these lines of heavier downpours, maybe even a few rumbles of thunder with that. So we'll keep an eye on that. That is going to be running its way to the east. Through tonight, we'll get into a better chance of for scattered showers as across the province as that front moves through. High pressure moving in, that much cooler air mass. How cool? Well, you can see Calgary at 1, Edmonton at -1, Churchill at -5, Yellowknife at -6. Still into the 30s in through the southeast parts of the U.S., but that front is going to be sharp for them as well, bringing some at least slightly cooler temperatures. Temperatures tonight dropping into the 4 to 8 range, and then kind of remaining there throughout the day tomorrow. Not a huge shift. You can see there's that line that comes through tonight, late evening. It is, again, generally going to be the northern parts of the province that see the best chance for showers. That northerly flow kicks in, and you can see by 6 a.m. where our temperatures are with those overnight lows I just showed you, and then those temps will basically kind of hover there through a good portion of the day. Note the clouds pretty dominant through a good amount of tomorrow, but then we're going to be, and a couple of isolated showers, some gradual clearing mid to late afternoon. That'll be our best chance of seeing some sunshine for tomorrow. Northwest winds 20 gusting to 40, temperatures 6-7 degrees across Cape Breton for tomorrow. Into the Northumberland Shore region, and temperatures again right around 6 degrees. 5 Amherst, Cobequid Bay will be right around 5 or 6 degrees as well. The best chance for 7 and 8 degree temperatures will be here along the South Shore region, including Halifax, and then down through the South Shore region, and may even squeak towards 9 in Shelburne with that northerly flow, certainly favorable with a little bit of afternoon sunshine in the mix. So that front moves off, and then for Sunday, the setup is this cold northwest flow over top of the relatively warmer waters of the Gulf, and that always sparks some activity, and that'll be the case again on Sunday. Shower chances, flurries possibly mixing in over higher terrain areas in the Cape Breton Highlands, and by Sunday evening, even down towards lower terrain areas, and the possibility of some grapple, those snow pellets that mix in this type of a setup. So keep that in mind. 5, 6, 7 degrees is going to be the temperature range on Sunday. Pretty cool on Monday still with that northerly flow, but there is a warm front off to the west here, and that is going to be moving its way in, and so we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Clocks go back, we remember that. There are those showers bumping our temperatures up to 10 degrees, 17 on Monday with, again, that warm push of air. And just a little heads up that not quite done with the tropics yet, keeping an eye on a disturbance that may become a tropical storm over the weekend in the Gulf of Mexico, so don't be surprised if you hear something about that.
All right, something to watch for. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, we speak with Chef Malcolm Campbell about pursuing a passion for cooking while living with type 1 diabetes. November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and a Halifax chef is sharing his story of pursuing his passion while living with type 1 diabetes. Malcolm Campbell is chef here at Mystic on the Halifax waterfront. So talk to me, I guess, first about when you first were diagnosed and how did it hit you?
Yeah, so it was about 7 years ago, and honestly, it was quite difficult to take just because I really didn't know a whole bunch about the disease. I knew what it was, but I didn't really know the particulars. So I took it pretty hard, and then I looked for some help, and luckily someone was there to reach out and help me.
What were some of the signs that you're like, something might be wrong?
Luckily for me, it was kind of caught in a different appointment, but constant, unquenchable thirst was the first one I noticed. So it was like I was drinking liters and liters and liters of water a day and still thirsty. And then obviously you have, constant urination, and then, just irritability, lack of sleep. It was just, I just felt really weird and off, but my body was running like super high glucose at the time. So, and then it was caught on a test, luckily for me. So, yeah.
Given your job, were you concerned that it may interfere with being healthy?
I didn't know if I could be a chef anymore for a little while there. And then Vanessa Oliver reached out and she came down to see me. She's a fellow type 1 diabetic who her father runs Oliver Bonaccini restaurants at the time. And she sat down with me and helped me and talked me through some things about some of the technology and this and that. So that really put me at ease and made me think I can do this.
Well, what is the technology that gets you through?
So I use two. I have an insulin pump, which is Omnipod. And then I have, my favorite is the Dexcom G7. So it's an app that I wear and it's a continuous glucose monitoring system. So it tells you what your glucose levels are. And it also has trending, and for me, the app, the best thing is it has a follow along app, so my wife can follow along.
Oh, nice. So it's a team effort.
Yeah, and then it has alarm. So a big thing is sleep. I found in the beginning I was not getting the proper sleep or the amount of sleep, so I'll be up all day long. So this allows you to switch off, and then if you do go into trouble, you get an alarm, just like your normal alarm. Which is very, very valuable. And I have two little girls at home, so I always think, like, what if it was my daughter that had it? Right. I can check in at school when she's at school and see how she's doing, what her levels are like. I can call her and say, hey, you need to eat some carbohydrates right now, or you need some more insulin. So as a parent, it's super helpful for little kids, because I always see little kids wearing these things and I feel like, oh my God, like how hard that would be for a little kid, because I find it hard as an adult. So.
Well, you're talking about, you work around gorgeous food. Yep. How much of a challenge is it, I guess, in maintaining the proper diet?
It's discipline. It's also very difficult. If you're surrounded by food, so I'm always nibbling. So it's easy to get caught off guard. Sometimes I used to be like, well, why is my glucose level so high right now? And it's like, well, I just nibbled like 10 different things. So it's good to keep you in check for sure.
Right. Well, why did you want to become an advocate?
Just because I was helped in the beginning. And for me, that was very valuable, and it really put my mind at ease, because I wasn't sure what was happening. So, and then just having kids as well, and I always think of what would it be like if they had it. So, I do what I can do. It's not very much, but it's something here and there.
Well, what's your advice for folks out there who may be just starting this journey?
Take it day by day. Day by day. You could eat the same thing every single day, and you can take the same amount of insulin every day and get different results every day. So you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. So it's hard not to beat yourself up about it. Mental health does come into this as well, but every day is a new day. So if you have a bad day and your glucose levels were super high all day long, start fresh the next day.
Yes,
so
that's some good advice. All right, thank you very much for talking to us. Coming up, with days to go until Election Day in the U.S., both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tried to persuade undecided voters. And sweeping changes in Alberta could alter health care for transgender youth and limit sex education in schools. Welcome back. As we head into the final weekend of the U.S. election campaign, the rhetoric is heating up. Republican candidate Donald Trump is drawing heat for recent comments about Liz Cheney, the former Republican lawmaker who is one of his staunchest critics. Steve Futterman has more.
4 days before the election, it's pretty much nonstop campaigning, and the candidates are focusing on those key battleground states. Today, both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were on the trail, but receiving a lot of attention today were these remarks made by Trump last night, where he seemed to be threatening former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Opponents of Trump reacted harshly, saying he was threatening Cheney's life.
It was completely inappropriate, dangerous, and unbecoming of a leader. We need to get back to a place where leaders understand they have an important role. They are messaging to the whole country. And the threat of violence is completely out of bounds.
Later in the day, the Trump campaign tried to clarify and soften Trump's remarks, issuing a statement. In all the battleground states, campaign workers from both sides are trying to make sure their supporters vote. In this Philadelphia suburb, these Harris campaign workers were going door to door. Pennsylvania is possibly the key state, and the Harris campaign is preparing for an election eve rally in downtown Philadelphia. Workers were there today getting everything ready. It's hard to overestimate the importance of Pennsylvania. Of all the battleground states, Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes, 19. And both the Harris and Trump campaigns desperately want to win here. Both candidates will be here in Pennsylvania between now and Election Day. And behind me at the Philly Art Museum is the location where Kamala Harris is expected to hold her final rally of the campaign on Monday night. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Philadelphia.
Georgia is one of the most watched battleground states. Both candidates have made several campaign appearances there in the lead up to Election Day. 4 years ago, Joe Biden became the first Democrat candidate to win the state since 1992. John Northcott takes a look at the situation there now.
We know, in fact, that almost half the eligible electorate have already gone ahead and cast their votes in early voting. A big part of the population here, some 30% or more, self-identify as black, and that's an important demographic for whoever wins the presidency. Traditionally, Savannah itself has gone Democratic. Still, though, there are those in the black community who are looking for Trump, especially when it comes to his policies on economics. We talked to one woman who's working hard to bring out the black female vote about those supporters who are turning to Trump.
If I said I understood that, I would be lying. I really would be lying. But I really think that they believe that in the past he has helped their businesses. He has helped them to make more money. But for me, yes, do I want to make money with my business? Yes. But my family, I want somebody that's going to look out for my family as well.
Also talked to a woman here on the streets about who she supported, Kamala Harris. She said, however, she also said she worries whether or not Americans are ready for a female black president. Here's what she had to say.
I don't think that people are ready. I don't think the U.S. is ready for a woman president.
Today's the last day for early voting, and then it's the last bit of campaigning and the big day on Tuesday. Results could be final on the day of. They could take a lot longer. That is one of the many big question marks heading into this election. On the streets of Savannah, John Northcott, CBC News, Georgia.
Israel's offensives continued in Lebanon and Gaza today. Beirut's southern suburbs were hit again, with Israel issuing evacuation warnings for at least 10 neighborhoods. In Gaza, medics report more than 60 deaths in airstrikes overnight and today. They say 10 were killed at a central Gaza school sheltering displaced people. In southern Gaza, Israel reported it killed another Hamas leader believed instrumental in the October 7th attacks. Hamas rejected the latest proposal from current ceasefire talks, demanding again that the ceasefire be permanent. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today said his priority was security, not agreements. In eastern Spain, the search goes on for dozens of people missing after this week's devastating floods. Officials now say the number of dead has surpassed 200, mostly in the Valencia region. And there is growing frustration, even anger, over how governments have handled the disaster. Megan Williams reports.
There are still dozens and dozens of people missing. They're trying to locate them. Many people believed to be still trapped in cars. There is also anger arising over what critics say was a government failure to warn people about just how dangerous these torrential downpours were. Now, the national government says it was the regional government's responsibility to warn people, but nonetheless, the mayors of small towns are saying that not enough information was given, and that especially elderly people and people with disabilities could not get out in time. They were either trapped in their home, or by the time they got to a car, the roads were overwhelmed with water, and many of them died stuck in cars. Now, the cause of the torrential downpour, as we know, is linked to climate change. The Mediterranean Sea has warmed a lot in recent years. This summer, parts of it were 5 degrees higher than they normally are. So when a cold front moves over that warm water, it makes massive dense clouds that when they release the water all at once causes this devastation. In one particular area in Valencia, there was 1 year's worth of downpour in just 8 hours. The other issue is over construction. A lot of people are saying, why has it been permitted by governments to build apartment buildings, stores in lower areas that get overwhelmed when it rains? Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has tabled legislation that would, if passed, limit transgender rights in sports, healthcare, and classrooms. Smith says the changes would protect the health and safety of young people in Alberta, but not everyone sees it that way. Erin Collins explains.
A busy day in Alberta's legislature.
Bill 26.
Bill 27. Bill 29.
Bills tabled that could mean big changes for Alberta's health and education systems. One facilitating the breakup of Alberta's province-wide health board, at the same time making controversial changes to gender-affirming care for youth, restricting access to surgery, hormone treatment, and puberty blockers for minors.
These policies are designed and intended to help preserve the choices children have before they make serious decisions about their bodies.
Well, the new rules drafted after consulting with some members of the trans community.
These all in the right spirit and the right direction to ensure that kids are being protected.
But that opinion far from universal.
We know that gender-affirming care is necessary. It is life-saving care.
Well, the new bills will also impact how gender and sexuality are taught in schools. Parents will now have to opt their kids into sex ed instead of opting out. An unnecessary change, say some who teach youth about sexuality.
There's lots and lots and lots of parents who are really, really happy that sexual health education takes place in schools, and they don't need an extra layer of approval.
Well, the new laws would also force schools to inform parents when kids ask to change their pronouns and add limits on transgender athletes competing in sport. The suite of laws upsetting the opposition.
The most heinous, most rigorous anti-trans legislation, anti-sex ed legislation that we've seen anywhere in the country.
The flurry of legislation comes just days before the Premier faces a leadership review. Some political watchers say it's directed squarely at the right flank of the United Conservative Party.
Danielle Smith has to placate these folks that are well organized and very motivated to try to get their agenda front and center.
There is a real sense out there that the Premier is sweating this vote quite a bit. And, you know, if history is any indicator, she's got some reason to be concerned. Alberta's Conservatives, well, they eat their own. I mean, Danielle Smith only has the job of Premier because her party kicked out her predecessor, Jason Kenney. So this weekend, what do we have? 6,000 United Conservative Party members congregating at the AGM. And the question for Danielle Smith, how many of them are showing up to support her and how many are showing up for her head?
And that was the CBC's Erin Collins. Well, after a CBC Marketplace investigation into Air Canada's accessibility practices, it promised to do better serving travelers with disabilities. Now, months later, Travis Danraj put the airline to the test to see if anything had changed.
Marketplace flew Air Canada from Toronto to Fredericton with Brock Richardson.
I have periventricular leukomalacia, which is basically a brain injury.
Richardson saw our investigation last year that highlighted a series of concerning stories about accessible air travel. Alessia Di Virgilio had a lift hit her on the head. Our hidden cameras also capturing this moment.
To say the word terrifying just doesn't fully capture how you feel.
Air Canada pledged to improve staff training, boarding procedures, and make necessary equipment available. But Marketplace found some promises weren't being kept. In Fredericton, no lift is available to assist in moving Richardson. And despite Air Canada's new policy, he didn't board the plane first.
There is some vulnerability that goes on when you're being transferred, and I didn't sign up for that to be amongst the public.
We were requested by authorities to board a number of other customers before.
Then there's this moment.
I'm not comfortable with that at all.
A staffer tells him his support person needs to get off the plane during a transfer.
If they're not assisting or anything like this, then we have to ask them to deboard the aircraft.
After some back and forth, she's allowed to stay.
We'll need to clarify the policy. I don't have that information right now.
We also documented an Air Canada manager appearing to record a seat transfer without Richardson's consent.
It's not Air Canada policy to do that. What we do is we do take photos occasionally of mobility aids that are being stowed to ensure that there's no damage once that's being stowed in the cargo hold.
Air Canada now says they only took pictures of Richardson's empty wheelchair and tell him they regret his overall experience. They've also reached out to him for feedback and to offer a $1,000 coupon as a goodwill gesture. They've also sent a lift to the Fredericton International Airport. Travis Danraj, CBC News, Toronto.
The push to return important Inuit artifacts currently in storage at a Quebec museum is growing. The call to repatriate them to Nunavut is as old as the territory's land claim. But there's a problem. There's still nowhere to store them. The CBC's Juanita Taylor got exclusive access to the collection with those who are fighting to bring them home.
I see that this was taken back in the early 1920s.
This Inuit women's parka, made of caribou skin, is over a century old, adorned with brass buttons and a king's coronation medallion.
King George and Queen Mary, 1911.
It tells a story of first contact between Inuit and traders. But if people from Nunavut want to see it, they need to travel more than 2,000 kilometers to the Museum of Nature's campus in Gatineau, Quebec. That's where more than 200,000 Inuit artifacts are being preserved.
We need to showcase these. We need to have them out.
Nunavut is alone in Canada without a heritage centre. William Beveridge is leading efforts to get one built in Iqaluit.
Losing some of our cultural identity has been very difficult in Nunavut. This heritage center will help, but we don't want to wait. We need to make this happen now.
The proposed facility would serve to preserve and showcase the ways Inuit once lived.
And what is this piece right here?
Like these snow goggles made of ivory walrus tusk, protection from sunlight and snow. And this ivory fishing lure. Sakiasi Saudwapik is from Pangnaktok, Nunavut.
Tabataan na isumagyo yakaw yaka tamang palle luta. Piu yuaru minta kutitao yogut ulume tapawa Nunavut tinukisiane utariale.
Sentiments echoed by students.
It's also a way of decolonizing for our culture and our people, is to reclaim what was always ours.
But funding is a major barrier. The Inuit Heritage Trust says it will cost $150 million. So far, $15 million has been secured.
We have so much infrastructure gaps, but it is a priority for the Department of Culture and Heritage.
But Beveridge says Inuit can't wait any longer as more and more elders pass away.
Be proud of ourselves, to know where we come from.
Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Gatineau, Quebec.
Yep, it sounds like tomorrow's going to be a bit of a shock to the system.
Yes, and it's, I mean, it is the first weekend of November.
I know, we've been spoiled.
We've been really spoiled, for sure. We'll dive into the numbers in more detail next week, but October was certainly warmer than normal across the province and across the country, really. The only place in the whole country was Whitehorse that was below normal.
Wow.
This past month. So November's here. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day, and you can see as we zoom in on the North Shore and beautiful Rural Point. Have a look at this.
Oh, isn't that stunning?
Beautiful any time of year. Thank you so much to Christina for sharing this. Love the sky in this picture.
Yeah.
Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. Keep them coming this weekend. If you are out, let me know what it's looking like in your backyard. We've got some isolated showers for tomorrow. The northerly wind, clouds dominating, but some sun breaks mixing in, especially into the later part of the day. Highs of 5 to 8 degrees for your Saturday. mildest along that Atlantic coastline, no doubt, and a similar type feel on Sunday, northwest winds. We will be looking at the possibility of a few flakes mixing in for the northeast on Sunday afternoon and even Sunday evening, of course, with that grapple possibility as well. Even Sunday morning, the Cape Breton Highlands could see a few flakes, but it looks like into the afternoon, that setup is a little bit more favorable and into Sunday evening. High pressure moving in from the west, and that will keep the northerly flow in the mix for Monday. So temps still a little bit sluggish for that Monday time period. We should be around 9-10 degrees, so a bit cool there then still. Tuesday, temperatures rise right through into Wednesday and then kind of a snap back late week.
We'll be ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to share the latest now on a story we brought you earlier this week. 7-year-old Grayson Hare dressed up as Maple Leafs captain Austin Matthews, more specifically a 3D version of his Upper Deck MVP hockey card. Well, a video of the costume went viral and then got a big boost when Matthews himself shared the video on Instagram. Well, now the pair have met up in person.
What's this? What's up, buddy? Wow. How you doing?
Good.
What's your name?
Grayson, you look like me.
Yeah, I do look like you. Your mustache is better though.
Yeah.
Grayson's right. The resemblance is uncanny. You can barely tell them apart. Not only did Grayson get to meet his hockey idol for Halloween, he also got to watch the Leafs practice. I think the Leafs have themselves a fan for life.
Guaranteed. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Well, that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching and have a great weekend.
Take care.